Hey everybody, this is my coming out video as psychic. Yeah, this is not a new thing for me. I've literally been like this since I was born, but I went through this whole process of seeing my psychic abilities skyrocket. But then right after that, it felt like I had to suppress it because when I got out of Christianity, it felt like if I continued to use my intuitive gifts, that I would be labeled as, just the stereotypical, like, oh, she's way off. She's in the psychic world, or she's a witch, or, it's just very disheartening to witness the ignorance of a lot of people. And because I am very sensitive to all kinds of stimuli, I just really tried to protect myself from all that negativity. However, I now know that I don't have to suppress myself, and I can still protect myself at the same time. And I can do this through the practices of meditation and having certain stones that can help me stay grounded. But I just really need to continue to free myself. So I kind of want to share about how I figured out that I am psychic, or people used to call me a prophet or whatever. And it started when I was really young, really young, like really young, in the single digits. I would have dreams and these dreams would allow me to have a certain clear knowing, and I would see these things. And if for those who don't know, there are 4 different clairs that everybody has, but a lot of our gifts have been laying dormant because we've been socialized and conditioned to not express the sixth sense, right? Do not express our clairs. And those are clairvoyance, so clear seeing, clairaudience, clear hearing, claircognizance, clear knowing, or clear conscious, and then clairsentient or clairsentient, however you want to pronounce it, but that's clear feeling, like clear sentiment, clear sentiment. So yeah, I've been experiencing all 4 throughout my life, and especially now. It was really strong when I was younger, and then I don't know, just stuff happened. A lot of trauma happened, and as I continue to do shadow work, whether that's just me meditating and journaling and praying, being out in nature, reflecting, psychoanalyzing myself, or when I am literally just on mushrooms, that they really help me to dig deeper and get all of that gunk out, all the conditioning, all the suppression, all the things that people tried to label me as and put me down and keep me quiet and bind me. I've been able to clear those things out so I can continue to align myself with my higher self, which is me. You know what I'm saying? So to not take up too much of your time, because I know I make long videos, but that's okay. I started to notice that I was claircognizant when I would, I used to go up to people, and this would happen even in college, undergrad. I would go up to people because I would see certain things that would happen through their, in their past, and then I would get this feeling that I need to tell them. So I'm like, oh my gosh, what if this is wrong? What if they think I'm crazy? What if they try to rebuke me? Just all these different conversations coming up with the ego. But I had to follow my intuition. I had to follow my spirit, my soul. So I would move with that. I would speak to that person, tell them about what I was feeling or seeing or hearing or knowing without knowing them. And they would just break down. They would cry. And because I was in Christianity at the time, I felt like after I told somebody something that I was feeling intuitively, I had to then sneak the gospel in there to like win them over and save souls, you know. And I always felt kind of weird about that, even though I knew that's what I was supposed to be doing at the time under that belief system. It felt strange. It felt like I was kind of like manipulating them in a way to believe certain things, because I would be walking the streets of the city, whether it was here in Detroit or in Grand Rapids or Holland. I would just be out. I would literally drive somewhere, and this would be with a friend or not, and it would just be me. And I'd be like, okay, like show me someone that needs to be spoken to. And I remember clearly, oh my gosh, I think this was like 4 years ago. I was at home and I saw this woman that had a blue shirt, and it was like a very deep blue, kind of like the color of this lapis, this Egyptian lapis stone. And she was wearing this blue shirt and a black cardigan with jeans, and she was a brunette, so she had brown hair. And I saw this person so clearly. That's my clairvoyance. And then I just knew that I had to go to Starbucks. I don't know why, but that was my clairsentience, my clairsentient, you know, my clear feeling guided me to do. I went in my car, you know, Starbucks is probably about to close at this point, and I go there and I'm pretending to do my homework. Well, I actually was trying to do homework at the time, but I had to like balance school and also these gifts. Is very, very interesting growing up. So I go to Starbucks and I'm like, before I even go into the shop, I see this woman sitting down near the window. It's like a chair, and she's sitting out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, wow, this is exact. And I literally had a voice recording. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to Starbucks, and there's gonna be this lady that's wearing this and this, and she's gonna look like this. I still have the recording on my old phone. If I can find it, I can post it later. But I go in and I'm like, oh my gosh, now what do I do? And I'm sitting there and I'm like trying to do my homework, like typing, and I'm looking up, I'm like, oh, please don't let her leave, please don't let her leave. And I'm like, okay, why not just go? Like, this is not new. It's just super duper accurate. And I went over there and I talked to her and I spoke to her and I encouraged her with something that was very specific, and it, you know, it really helped her. But then, like, you know, I always had that pressure because of my conditioning to then preach the gospel to her after I give her that message of some kind of like hope or something personal. And it just really didn't feel right to me. It felt like I was using people at their vulnerable state because that's how I was trained. And intuitively back then, I knew that wasn't right for me. So now I'm here and I'm learning more about my ancestors and the Native American spirituality, and looking at how much that is similar to the Bible, even though these practices came before the Bible, and they're literally in every indigenous culture, but it's just so fascinating to me because I'm like, now what? You know, I'm learning to not suppress myself when it comes to that. I'll share 2 more stories, and then I'll share 3 more stories about my clairs. So that was clairvoyance. Let me do claircognizant, and they're all intertwined, okay? They overlap. My claircognizant, oh my gosh. So, I think this is 2019. I was visiting the east side of Michigan because I went to school on the west side of Michigan. And I had this dream about, and I won't say this person, but it's somebody very close to me. And I had a dream about them and their spouse. And I had a very clear message, and I called this person at like 7 a.m. on a Saturday. And I was like, hi, so-and-so. And I was just trying not to be awkward. I was like, God said this is your last chance to fix your marriage. And I told this person exactly what was going on, what I was picking up. And you know me, I didn't know this person's like personal stuff logically, but intuitively I did. And I told them, and they were just like, oh, okay, thank you. And they seemed kind of like stressed, and they never told me if it made sense to them. And then a year later, these people got a divorce, and I mean, I warned that person, and it really depends on like how the person receives it, because my job is only to receive those messages from the divine, from source, from the Great Spirit, and then to share. That's all. After that, it's not my responsibility, because I'm not controlling people. I'm not forcing anything on people. And oh, by the way, I also ask people, can I share something with you before I just drop it on them, because it could be very startling, and I want to be aware of other people's traumas and other people's past experiences and their comfortability with the spirit realm, because everybody has a choice, and I don't want to ever interfere with anybody's free decision, right? Okay, so next, clairaudience. This was last year. I had a roommate, and she still is my friend, but she went to the same college, the Christian college that I went to. And we were just in the kitchen, and we were talking, and I heard her say, and I don't know if this was the exact phrase, but I heard her say, oh, excuse me, I need to get something out of this drawer. And so I was like about to move, and then she comes towards me. She's like, excuse me, I need to get something. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, like you literally just said that, sorry. And so I move out the way. She's like, what? No, I didn't. And I was like, yeah, but I heard you say it. And she's like, I didn't say it. I mean, I just said it now, but I didn't say it before. And I was like, are you sure? Because I heard you. and after that point, it happened again with that same person. It's also happened a couple times when I'm with my boyfriend. Sometimes when clairaudience is tied to claircognition, I like know what somebody's gonna say right before they say it, and that's a whole other thing. Like I can be finishing people's sentences, but I figured out that that's kind of rude sometimes, so I just kind of hold it back unless it's important, you know. I only use that for good. And then finally, the last one, the fourth clair that I've experienced strongly is clairsentience or clairsentience. I was in DC with my friend. I'm not going to say her name, but she subscribed to this channel, and I love her very much. And it was time for my microdose that day, because I treat it as medicine. As you know, if you have watched my videos before, I take mushrooms very seriously, because I understand the sacredcy of it, and I understand how that entheogen has been used in the past by my ancestors and by many other indigenous cultures to connect with the divine and to heal trauma and to help others as well. So I was taking it in microdoses because of OCD. And it was hard for me to take it, and I took some, and it was, you know, a little bit of it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm already an empath, which is actually a type of clairsentience. And I already feel people's pain very much, as I've mentioned before in this channel. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is the day we're supposed to be walking out and going to these museums and being around a lot of people and taking public transportation. So I warn my friend, I'm like, hey, just letting you know, I'm already super feel when it comes to intuitively sensing things, and I don't know how I'm gonna be acting on this public transportation. So we end up not taking the public transportation because we miss it. That's okay. But later when we were walking in the museum, and this was even before the museum, but like when we got out of our Lyft or our Uber, I was feeling such a horrible pain in my hips. I've never ever experienced a pain like that ever. And although that I am healing from scoliosis and uneven hips and stuff, I've never felt a pain like that in my life. Only that time. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like my friends were walking before me and I'm like lagging behind because I'm in so much pain, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Usually mushrooms help me identify the root of the pain that I feel in my body from psychosomatic pains. And that's fine, but this time it wasn't doing it. I'm like, what is going on? What is this? So we're walking and I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe I need to get new shoes. So we go and I literally buy new shoes, like a whole pair of shoes, because I think that's gonna help me not have pain in my hips. And I sit down and I rest and nothing's working. We go to the museum, we're walking around barely, and I sit down and I'm like, whew, oh my gosh, wow. And I sit next to my friend, I was like, so-and-so, do you feel about 100? And she's like, oof, more like 85. And I'm like, yeah, I feel that. And I start to explain to her like what exactly I'm feeling in my hips and stuff. And I don't know if it was that night or the next day, she was just like, I think you were feeling my pain. Because I didn't feel it after that. I didn't feel it later that night when we were all like hanging out eating dinner. I didn't feel it the next day. I have not felt it since then. And she actually like has a lot of problems with her hips. She's healing though. And she said it was like really comforting to know that someone could actually feel her pain. And my heart just broke, because this person has to, and she will not soon, but in the past, I'll speak it into existence. In the past, she has felt this pain consistently, like on a daily basis almost. And that just made me feel for her. That made me have compassion for her, you know. And get this, I told my mom that whole situation without telling her about the microdosing, of course. I want to tell her that, but not right now. She's like, oh, Jupster, I know you probably don't want to hear it, but that is the gift of, what did she say? That's the gift of discernment. She's talking about the spiritual gifts in the Bible. It's literally the same thing. It's just a different label. She's like, oh, that's the gift of discernment. Next time, after that happens, pray for them in Jesus' name and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, like, thanks, Mom. And I've gotten to the point where I know that my parents, that's how they channel their spirituality. They're very spiritual. They're psychic too. And they be doing a bunch of magical stuff, but they all do it in Jesus' name. So they will never be called like witches or psychics or whatever, or be shunned or criticized, right? And so me being their daughter and navigating this life outside of their social construction and their religious beliefs is kind of like challenging for me. But anyway, I'm dealing with that, and I just wanted to share that with you all, because I know there are some people out there who also have gifts that they might have suppressed. And look, we really have to set these gifts free, because when we stop suppressing ourselves and step out and utilize our gifts, it can really benefit humanity, especially during these times when people are being disconnected from not only their intuition overall, but specifically their gifts to hone in and uplift the collective consciousness, you know? They tell us not to be close to people, and we can't touch people anymore and hug people and feel and you know what I'm saying? And it's just all suppression, and I'm not welcoming that. So this is me stepping into my power, and hopefully in this time, in this lifetime, I'm able to be accepted for once with those gifts without being labeled all these negative things, because I just really can't let it get to me, and I know that. But that's something that I have to work on, you know. Because who cares if people accept me or not? If this is me, I have to live that out. So anyway, I might not be making a lot of YouTube videos in the month of July and maybe August, because I feel very led and called to work on developing my gifts and strengthening those to help people. So It might not be every Tuesday, to be honest, from now on, just for this summer, because I need to work on this and I need to focus on my music and really finish the projects that I've started. And yes, I can't be guilty going into that. I want to help everybody that I can, but it starts with working on myself and being prepared and increasing my spiritual immune system. I know that I haven't really like finished speaking about that, but if I feel led to make a YouTube video, I will listen to that guidance. And this is where I'm being led right now, so I'm listening to that as well. All right, I love you and I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. You're awesome if you watch this whole video, and even if you didn't watch this whole video, even though you're not going to hear this, but you're awesome. I'm still speaking that out to you, and I'll see you soon. Love you.